Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today I'm going to continue with the integration of the Diagon Alley set into the Old Town of Brick Nottingham, and I'm going to start with Ollivanders and that area up here and see how far I can get before I run out of time, and I'm hoping to get the whole thing done and integrated with some fun scenes. So as I say, I'm going to start at this end, and I'm actually going to start on an area that I've already done, being the nightclub and disco, just to get some people in this street and maybe a little wall at the end or something like that, just to finish it off. One thing I have done since last time already is just changed that little bit of the top floor to tan that was still grey, just at this end, just to even that up. And I will, in due course, make this a full story, I think, so we can have some of the party spilling out onto the roof, and that would be really good fun. But what I'm not going to do today to any of these buildings is do the insides too much. And that's just because basically they aren't going to be seen a great deal, and I really want to get on with doing the airport and the fairground all over there. So there's so many big projects to do. If I sort of languish doing every detail on the way, then we're really going to not make as much progress as I'd like. I often get questions as to what I will do when the Lego room is full. Well, things like this, basically, making this nightclub disco work on the inside and making all these shops have full content where they don't already. So I'm going to start with populating this alley with a bit more nightlife, and then I'm going to move on to doing the Nocturn alley in the gap there, and onto the Ollivanders building after that. Okay, well this area is getting incredibly hard to reach actually, with my big hands and the fact that it's about a metre away from each standing hole. But I've done a low wall, as you can see. It's a bit basic for now, but I think that'll do. It needs these long slopes on the end of it to enable the train to get past on this corner because of the sort of grounding of the longer carriages. So I've been testing it with white train. And you can see we've got a lady with that new red hairpiece that I got in dark red and the new dark red crop top. She's meeting her friends on her way to the queue of the club. And I'll show you that in more detail from the other side. And here's the scene outside the Pink Flamingo from the other side. And as you can see from the get-up of most of the people queuing to get inside, it must be a 70s disco night at the nightclub. So we've got on the right that dark red-haired lady walking towards that we saw from the other side, waving at her two friends who've decided to wear costumes that are identical. And they're the Series 13 Disco Diva. And then just in front of them to the left, partially obscured, is the Series 2 Disco Dude with his big medallion and smile. So I think he's in a costume as well. And he's brought along his lady, who's wearing a blue afro. And she's wearing a sort of all blue outfit and one of those tiny little blue troll dresses, which I thought I'd try and use. And they're just behind Cole, who's currently being held up by the doorman. And the doorman, using a couple of new pieces that I've got. Oh, I'll just pull him out to show you. Very hard to set all this up at a stretch. But here he is. He's the guy using the snaggletooth face that I got recently from Nexo Nights. And I thought I'd give him Harry Potter hair as well. So he looked, well, a bit of a jumped up doofus, really. Apologies to you if you're a real life doorman, but belittling your profession. But I thought I'd have somebody who's got a higher opinion of himself and he's holding his arm out to prevent the queue from progressing for a moment. So I'll pop him back in a minute. And then what I wanted to do to finish off the old Apollo arcade is some street lighting. And I recently got a lamppost piece, one of the traditional types from Brick Hall, but I thought I'd use the leftover lamps from this Diagon Alley set to produce this. So I'm sure this is probably not crazy original, but it does the job. So it's just those lamps that I took off unaltered. They were actually from the inside of Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. And I've done a modified brick in the middle just to hold them and then just stuck it on the lamppost. But I think it looks very in keeping. I've sort of been trying it at different places, but I kind of thought that might be the best place for it. Do tell me what you think. Another place was sort of, say here, maybe that way, but I don't know. It seems less visible there. It may move around as this video progresses today, as I knock it over doing my building, but also as I change my mind. Actually, now I've put it there, I really quite like it there. So yeah, it's far from in a firm position, but I think it's very sort of in keeping with not only the ones that are on the buildings, but with the sort of Victorian shopfront theme. Actually, I really like that next to the glove sort of sign there. I think that might be the best place. Right, so next I want to add the Nocturn alley into this gap. And when I pulled it off Wizard's Wheezes, where it is sort of attached on the original set, it's kind of attached along this stripe here that I had to kind of repair with light grey and lilac coloured bricks. I filled in all the gaps with other bricks, so it kind of looks like it was originally done like this, and I'm just going to pop it there. Now, it doesn't have a top at the moment, and that's because it used those 1x4 very shallow slopes that I've actually used in my wall, which is behind all those people. So I'm going to do a different kind of roof for it, and that's a good idea really, because it was only one depth. Kind of from a bit further back, it really looked quite weird. So I'm going to go for something that's just a little bit deeper, probably 4 studs or so. And then this building can go right up against it as well. And then I'm going to tile into that. Now, I've had quite a few ideas of what to put in Nocturn Alley, including sort of a drunk or something like that. Now, I've got a drunk on my beach at the moment, though I could move him. He's very happy with his bottle de vin rouge. And I could add all sorts of things. Another idea was an underpass, so like a tunnel that went underneath the railway line, sort of towards that sweat. That's also a very good idea, though I won't be able to burrow into the table here because it'll have to be sort of an illusion type one. But I'm undecided at the moment. I'm going to see how it looks first and see what it leans towards. Oh, and I've also tidied up that very corner in there with some green plates as well, so it kind of looks seamless in between the green areas and the paved areas, which are now safe because they've been roped off or have a nice wall. So yeah, I think that tidies it up a bit. Right, so I'll finish Nocturn Alley's roof and then probably start taking this off its base and mounting that in position as well. All right, and there's Nocturn Alley. I think that's looking really good there. As I said, I thought I might. I've done kind of a deeper roof, so it's 4 deep using similar but black tiles. And I've deliberately kind of cut it into the building next to it, just so it's kind of got that overlaps. It's only sort of 3 deep there, but overlapping 1. I think that looks really good. Now, I haven't got a scene at the end of it, but it's quite fun to be able to see the trains through the gap, and that green kind of beckons you through. So I might add something in due course. And this wall at the moment is looking quite blank, but it's got loads of potential for either another sign with a dancer on or another light or something like that. Talking of light, I could almost remove this straight away and put it there, kind of more lined up with the alley itself, or even one more maybe, like that. Yeah, actually that's looking really good now, isn't it? So I'm probably going to move that about 10 more times. So on to the next building. This is Ollivanders, and originally it was a wand shop, so I won't be doing that because I do want to de-Harry Potterize this whole setup, and that's why I've left off the one that did say wand maker, the sticker there. I don't mind the fact that this sort of O with a stylized wand in it is still there. I don't think that's a problem. Doesn't really notice that badly. Also, Scribulus being a pen shop, I think it's a really good name for a sort of traditional pen shop anyway, so I don't think I have to change anything with that one at all. So a couple of minor changes. We have got a modified brick up here that used to hold this owl, so I'm just going to replace that setup with one of those. And we had a clip on here as well, so I'm just going to tidy up that edge with more tile. I am going to de-owl the rest of the building as well. It just doesn't seem to be appropriate to have loads of huge owls, because let's face it, they must be about 3 feet tall, or almost a metre if you're on metric, which is quite a scary beast really. I'll have to think of what to do with those owls in due course. One idea, of course, is to have one of those sort of owl type events somewhere like the castle. Often they have falconry sort of things where they have birds of prey and sort of show them off to the public. I've already got one bird of prey, being this bald eagle that isn't native to the UK, but nonetheless. Actually, somebody suggested putting that a bit higher now we've got these buildings around. So let's do that. It's about as high as we can get, but that's a bit less likely to collide. I don't want to move it entirely because of its nest being there with that large egg. So that's good. Right, so I think I need to do this off its base and attach it to the pavement. I'm going to be getting rid of all of these dark tan tiles, just like I have for the others, and then it will sort of fit in with the rest of my city. And what I'm going to do with this build, apart from not changing the inside, is just decide that it is a jewellery shop. I had loads and loads of suggestions, but really what sealed it was the ability to use this tile here, which has kind of got a diamond and a kind of cat motif, but nonetheless, and that's because it's from the set 70902, Catwoman Cat Cycle Chase. And I think that'll look really good on this frontage. So let's try and attach it on camera. Ooh, not sure if I can push that on very thoroughly. Oh, there we go. And I think you'll agree that with the gold on and the ornateness, I think that sign fits absolutely perfectly. And yeah, will make a really good feature for my high street, because it's the sort of shop that you would have in a old town. Right next to an implement shop, writing implements, you'd have a lovely jeweller. So I think that makes real sense. So hopefully you agree. Right, let's get on with moving this. Well, I've got to say, it never ceases to amaze me just how many light bluish grey tiles you need to do a city properly with paved streets. I know some people do them even more intricately than this, but it's just staggering, really. Anyway, all the bits that broke off with the base when I removed the building from it, I've reattached here. I've moved the Technic bricks from these ends, so they don't have any holes showing. So they're different bricks. I'm going to fill in this gap with my green park area for Castle Green. So that looks relatively seamless. There's a bit of a bump, but that's pretty unavoidable. And I can just put that in there as well. And you can kind of see the outline of the shop. So what I'm doing is basically getting loads of tiles, filling them in, pulling off loads of bits. That's just a sort for later. They're all the things that I've not used today. There are some jumper plates and so on. So I'm just doing it methodically, bit by bit, really. Now, as to who's going to be in this store, well, the guy who was running Ollivanders was Mr. Ollivander here, and I've just got a yellow head as a kind of alternative to him. I think that works rather well, a jeweller having some glasses, because I like the outfit that he's got there with the sort of old sort of jacket and so on. So I'm going to obviously remove the pink head and just have his yellow head. He won't have two heads, and he can be the proprietor of the shop. And for those of you that are interested, I remember a few people asking what I did with all my pink stuff. Well, there it is, a bag full of pink heads and pink hands and the odd dress piece and so on that I'm not using. So that's where they go. I may use them one day, so I'm not going to sell them or get rid of them. And then I thought I would want a customer leaving this store, because with us not having the interiors, I do want to have scenes. So the only way we can really have scenes is kind of out the door. So we've got, for example, the man who's just bought some gloves from Glove World. And I wanted a similar sort of customer here. So I thought I'd use the Series 3 wrapper, because he's got a huge $ medallion and even some gold on his teeth as well. So maybe he's just bought that gold medallion and that's why he's looking so pleased with himself. So I think I'll have him sort of walking away from the store, because I'm going to have Ollivander standing on the doorstep. I'll change the tile over for a plate just so I can have him actually standing on the step. Again, with only one head, don't worry. And then I thought I'd have another scene in this section, which is kind of in front of Scribulus, but it doesn't really matter. And I thought I'd have another jewellery store reference, which was this guy who's stolen, well, let's face it, a huge diamond. And he's still in his convict outfit. So clearly he's only just got out of prison and he's straight off up to bad ways again. So I thought he could be running down Nocturn alley and kind of looking over his shoulder, having done an evil deed. And let's have a policeman with a pair of handcuffs ready, chasing after him. So kind of a double scene there for the jewellers. Right, so I can put the whole building in now. And I've just noticed there's a tiny bit of tile missing, so I'll sort that as well. Now, one thing that never comes across in the filming is just how long all this takes. It's taken absolutely ages to get all this right. But the building did go down quite easily onto these sort of foundations that I'd done. We've got quite a clean wall on this side, so I probably won't do any climbing plants or anything. Save that for when I've got a worse edge to cover. There's the rapper with his gold chain and Mr. Ollivander. And there is the cop chasing the robber, who presumably hasn't just robbed his diamond from this jewellery store. Otherwise, he would be a lot more unhappy, presumably. And he seems quite content. So anyway, I've moved the lamppost yet again. I think I like it there. Sort of in a bit of space, kind of level with the glove rack-ish. And kind of centralised on that-ish. But yeah, I'll probably move it again before the end. But this whole area now is looking pretty good, actually. Very joined up. And if I just sort of cut out the green area on the left, then you can just see this is really built up. Now, this is how I'm trying to get my entire city to be. This is why it's taking so long. Because I want it to look like this from absolutely every angle. Just complete solid buildings with sort of hints of things behind and through that makes you kind of look down the alley or look through there or look over at that. And that's the whole sort of grand ethos. I mean, if I step back even further, you'll see that we've actually got a row of shops in front of this, being the Krusty Krab and the Winter Sports Shop and so on, and even the subway entrance to the subway station there. So you can see it's an incredibly detailed area here, and that's the level of density we're going for throughout. So with that in mind, I do want to add something else to Castle Green. We've already got the Bob's Kebabs with his large elephant leg in there, and you can see somebody's got some and he's looking rather happy with it as well. We've got a coffee chain shack with the 3D sign, and I will be having absolutely loads of those in the city. I've only managed to actually get into so far. So for the gap, I thought I would add this. Not exactly there, but something like that. And this is the Newbury Juice Bar, set 40336. And it's quite a fun thing. I'm not a massive fan of the colour scheme, I must say. So essentially it's a juice bar with currently a ghost with a coffee uniform on, so that's going to be changed. A couple of juice machines, of which I've turned 190 degrees just to see how it looks, because it makes more sense him being able to operate them, really, doesn't it? And it currently opens up to, what is that? I don't know. Sort of a ghost, but I think I'll de-ghost the inside of this as well, because quite frankly, I could use those eyes for my Halloween special, and I could definitely use the ghost head and hair as well. So what I plan to do is change the colour scheme a bit, because this dark pink and dark green really looks a bit garish, if you ask me. Maybe take these bits off the roof, and then I'll mount it kind of diagonally, so we've kind of got the trio all facing in towards the tables. And then maybe move that other slushy machine in a bit and just generally try and improve it. But then that area will be quite full as well. So yeah, let's get on with that. Now, before I get on to the juice bar amendments, I wanted to talk about this Mario mural. A lot of people have said that it isn't really in keeping now that the arcade has moved, because it's moved over here in a temporary location next to the hospital. I think I'll have something more high-rise there in due course. But it was here way before the arcade was here as well. And it always represented kind of some graffiti next to a railway line, or maybe even an art installation or something like that. And it largely stemmed from the fact that I didn't want to do a huge, great, big, ugly rock face, all in dark grey, in this area. So I wanted to be a bit more bright and a bit more interesting. Because I've already had the rocks behind these two buildings against Castle Rock and Major Oak Hill. So, yeah, I kind of like it. So I think it should stay. So it doesn't have to be, everything that is the same is next to each other. Anyway, right, on to the juice bar. So I've pulled off loads of different pieces, loads of bits, and I've added a new awning. A new awning is more in keeping with the colour scheme of what's already there. So we've got sort of white and the yellowish orange. And I've made sure that the end of the awning is all orange on one end and all white on the other end. Now inside, I've changed the person. So they are just a normal person and not a ghost. And I've turned both of those juice machines so they can be operated from the inside. We have got some remnant teeth. I can't be bothered to remove all those. It's not going to make any difference once this is closed. It is no longer haunted. So I think that'll be good. And another thing is the juice that she's done. So there's one. I've changed to orange because we had green, red and yellow before, but we didn't actually have an green, red or orange, yellow rather, juice for sale. So it makes more sense selling a colour you've actually got. So this guy down here is enjoying an orange smoothie or juice rather than the mug that you used to have. So I just can't decide whether I want to add some more tiles on the top in this same colour. I think I will, partially just to secure the roof down. And now I've added some studs on the bottom using the magic that is a Pythagoras right angle triangle to basically mount this at an angle but have it firmly connected. So I think it'll probably go about there. And if I've done the angle right, that'll be firmly connected. So then that's towing in like the kebab shop is towing in from the other direction. And I'll probably just move this table maybe along a bit that way just so it looks a bit more equally spaced. But I think that looks quite good. In fact, the awning from the kebab place actually kind of mirrors in a way the awning on the juice bar. So I think that does work really well actually. And you can still see the train behind. So yeah, I like that. Good. I'll finish that off and maybe put a person in front buying a drink. And there it is in position. I've just got a random worker who's gone up for a juice. Maybe that's his mate at the table already, which is slightly moved. And I think that's a bit more space now. I could probably add a few more people to that whole area. And I'm really glad to say I've liberated quite a few 2x4 tiles in all of that change. So very happy with that as well. But there we go. There is a whole area with no gaps in it. Huh? Pretty good, eh? I'm really happy with that. That looks fantastic. I'm going to celebrate with a short break when hopefully I'll have some more energy to come back and do the area that is still remaining over here. Right, I've come back after my dinner, feeling refreshed, and I've added one more minifigure to this area because I thought it needed one, and that's one of my favourite ones, just of a generic person, because they've got an M-Tron t-shirt underneath that jacket and quite an interesting dental retainer on the face as well. So that's a really interesting one. That was part of a Lego movie set. I also really thought the wall, rather than just having more tiles, I thought I'd do something like that, sort of more ornate in a way. It's just these modified plates, 1x2 in black with a kind of a clip on it. And I've got loads of them for some reason, but I thought that at the end of Apollo Alley might look a bit more interesting than just more light bluish grey tiles. So excuse me while I just pop that in. Oh, I've just knocked the flamingo off. Put that back as well. Sorry, it's very hard to do these things and keep everything in shot when you're sort of reaching. But there we go. So that wall now at the end looks a bit more interesting, I think. Kind of like railings or something to deter you from leaping over it. Anyway, so that is a good change. So I'm thinking this area is looking good. You might notice that I've just added a couple of things to the alley. It's looking a lot more full now because I've added a great big dumpster around one corner with a cat on top of it. Let's see if we can focus on that. There we are. And that's just to give it a hint that there is something in there, and that's probably for all of the empty bottles from the nightclub. And then there's a small sort of dustbin around that corner as well. So I think that makes it look a bit more full up rather than a road to nowhere sort of thing. So let's just prove that the train can get by. When I bought my recent Power Functions extra bits, I bought even more of the short cables, so the lights are on automatically as soon as I turn on the train for that one as well now. So I think all of my trains now are Power Functions ready, and they all have... Ooh, it made it past. So they all have the short cable now that enables me to have the lights on as soon as I turn them on, which I think's a great improvement. And yeah, that's looking good, isn't it? So this part of the city is really, really full now, and I'm loving it, I must say. So do tell me what you think, and then let's move on. Right, so on to the other side then. First of all, we have got Flourish and Blots, the used bookshop. I think I'm going to keep that exactly as it is because I just love the theme, I love how it looks, I love the books out on the street, so absolutely nothing to do with that apart from attach it to my base plates. The Fortescue's ice cream at the end I'm going to change. Mostly I'm going to change that sign with the little twee sort of chairs, and I'm probably going to add some more seating outside as well. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with that in due course. It may be that we've got some space on this corner to add a fountain or a little statue or maybe just some benches or something like that. I don't know yet. When that's in, I'll probably extend the pub garden just a little bit that way, just to fill it up. I'm going to have a gap in there so we can see the trains whizzing by deliberately. And that wall's not too ugly. So it doesn't need a plant or a big advert or something. So I'll probably try it without first and see how it looks. But the biggest area of unknown is this one over here. It's a great big green expanse. It's a very difficult place to be able to use. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting a tree in there, because I think any sort of statue or something would be in a much more prominent position than there. So I'm going to put in a fun tree. I've got a normal sort of tree over there with a bird in it. I've got a relatively normal tree over there. So I'm going to go for something a little bit different and a bit fun and create a scene with a tree. And then there'll be a little gap between the corner of Fortescue's and the corner of my Art Deco cinema, which is the one that's being painted using some really old faded bricks to represent the bit that isn't being painted, or hasn't yet been painted rather. And over here as well, you see there's another guy on a ladder, and we've got some of the bricks before and some of the bricks after. Very good. And there's a segue there. I did a tutorial on that, by the way, if you're interested in how to build that and things like it. Right, anyway, back to what we're doing. Let's start probably with the corner scene, I think, because it's going to be even harder to reach once this is in place. Right, so I've tried lots of different tree ideas for this, but I've always come back to using one particular piece, and that was from set 75902, The Mystery Machine, which is a Scooby-Doo set. And in that set, they had a haunted tree, and I wanted to use the same piece. So here it is, a haunted tree with that wide cylinder piece and some round bricks, 4x4s on top. And I haven't added the same arms that are in that set. I've kind of added some branches that look like they could be arms, but are kind of wavy. And then I've done a similar sort of almost hair type setup with 3 kind of branches coming out of the top as what's left of its foliage. And I thought that would be a really funny tree to have in a visible position in the corner. So I really like it. So it's clearly a very old tree. The fact that it's haunted might be a bit of a concern for local residents. And I've also, interestingly, mounted it on a 4x4 turntable piece. And that's just so I can mount this at a diagonal angle and it still be incredibly secure. So the fact that we've got sort of black corners at the bottom is a bit of a shame, but you can't get them in brown. So I think that will be good, kind of visible through that gap over there. So here is the haunted tree in its position at the corner of the railway tracks. I might have to position it a bit nearer in if the train can't get past those sort of arm branches, which unfortunately aren't as visible as they might be just because of the track ballast behind them being brown as well. But I'm going to disguise the black base by putting in lots of daffodils that I've been promising to use for weeks or months. And the fun scene that I thought I could incorporate with this scary haunted tree was the idea of a workman who is absolutely terrified. And that's because he got out his chainsaw to do some lopping work on the haunted tree. And the haunted tree had very different ideas and has scared him off. So he's running out of that gap, absolutely terrified. And he's dropped his workman's hat at the same time. Now, I think that's quite a fun scene. I might put him a bit nearer or just coming out of that gap or something. And then just to give it a bit more context, I can add some more groundskeeper people. There's a female one here with short hair pushing a lawnmower around. And I thought I could put them perhaps in between the two tracks just to make best use of all the space I've got available. So I'm going to have to check that both trains can get by those, of course. Well, I can use these pieces now for the Daily Babbler paper. Tree comes to life, and maybe it's something my ghost hunters or my monster hunters or somebody like that can go and investigate as well, given that the tree is coming to life and is scaring away the gardener with the chainsaw. And you can see that I've put kind of a round patch, but nonetheless, of daffodils behind him, and I've replaced one of those with a red butterfly. And his hat, I might have to move because you can't really see it at the moment, but it's there, fallen off, releasing his bushy hairdo. I think that's looking really good. I've also added the female lawnmower gardener there and the male lawnmower guy there. And believe it or not, the trains can get by, both of them, without hitting any of that, even though it looks ridiculously near in places. So I can prove that with the white passenger train. I mean, it must be very scary for that lawnmower guy in the middle because he is a hair's breadth from getting touched by both trains. But, you know, he knew that it was a dangerous job when he signed on. Cool. Let's get the building in now and we'll have finished an entire area. Right, so again, I've just put down all of the furniture that didn't come with the building when I pulled it off its base plate. And then I can put the building on top. But in this case, I think I've mispositioned it. I've tried it in position. I think it's a bit too close to the tree, so I'm going to have to move it all again, annoyingly. Probably 2 studs to our right. Okay, and here it all is in place, and looking very nice it is too. I've moved it 2 studs to the right, as I suggested. A lot of work, but I think it was worth it. And the scene is complete with all sorts of details now. I've got the lady from the set, whose name I can't remember, having just bought a book. I've yellowed her up and given her nice glasses. And then Fortescue is no longer selling ice creams, and he hasn't got a goatee anymore either. Actually, now he's been yellowed up. He's looking a bit like Leonard of Big Bang Theory, if you ask me. And he's got 2 wine glasses there, and there's some cafe logos on the tablecloths on each of the tables. So that probably gives you a clue. It's going to be a cafe in the daytime and a wine bar in the evening. So I'm going to make an appropriate 3D sign for there, which is why the old sign has been taken off in its entirety. And there we can see our scary tree still in the gap. I think that's looking pretty good. And the chainsaw guy is running away with his hat a lot more visible now. So I may have to rearrange this a little bit. It is looking a bit plain there, like it could do with something else. But as well as moving the pub garden along a bit, I haven't really got time still tonight because I've got to edit yet. So I'll just do the 3D sign and call it a day. And here is my 3D sign. It is a wine bottle with the logo on, which is from the Series 9 Waiter series minifigure. A wine glass that it's being tipped into, and a bunch of grapes that I had spare from doing the Italian restaurant that was part of the Friends set. And I've got sort of vine leaves hanging off all of the sides all around the top, and that's kind of attaching it to the original 2x4 plate. So I'm probably going to snap this massively a couple of times trying to get it in position, because it's an arm's length away. So wish me luck in adding it to Fortescue's wine bar, and then we can look at it finished off. Right, well, third time lucky. There it is, the new 3D sign, which I think is a lot better than those little twee chairs and that table. Didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I thought just too odd looking. And there's Leonard with his wine glasses clearing up. I like that very much. So this bit looks very busy and very active. This little bit does as well, but then there's too much space, I agree, on the edge. Now that's not something I'm going to sort today, but I'm aware of it. Just need somebody walking about 10 dogs or something, and that'll finish it off. But again, look at that from a distance. It's completely full. There are no gaps. Looking very, very busy indeed. And I think if we pan yet further this way to back what we did earlier, hey, how about that? And back yet further to include some of the marina and the subway station. And we have got a really full up section of Old Town of Brick Nottingham. This is looking really, really good. I'm very, very happy with it. I'm kind of looking forward to doing the full city tour this time. I do one every 25 videos, as you may well know. We're quite a way off. I think we're about equidistant between two at the moment, but the next one definitely will have a lot to show, especially when we start next time the airport, which will be kind of behind that crane over there. Even more fun. So yeah, do tell me what you think. Let's do a quick flying recap. We've got Fortescue's with his wine bar with wonderful 3D sign. Pretty much unchanged flourish and blots. We've also filled this gap with some daffodils at long last. A man who's scared with a chainsaw because of the tree that has come alive. You can't really see its arms so much, but I think that is something that's going to stay. I love that. You can see its eyes from quite a distance. We've got a lovely gap there to be able to see the train through. And then over here, we've got the juice bar. A bit more spread out on Castle Green, which is a little bit bigger now. We've got Ollivanders' jewellery store with a rapper and his gold chain. And a police chase on foot past a wonderful old lamppost. Reminds me of Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, that. And then the Nocturn alley, which is in between what we did last time and what we did this time. Small wall on the end of this Apollo arcade, and a nice queue of people to enjoy the nightlife of the 70s night at the disco. Wicked. I think you'll agree that the old town of Brick Nottingham has never looked better. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome Lego videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, yep, we'll be starting that airport. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. It should be a really fun build. Something a bit different from the old town, at least. Looking forward to it. See you then.